with the co-founders of InGoal magazine, David Hutchison, and that ray of sunshine, Kevin Woodley. I'm Darren Millard. It's InGoal Radio, the podcast. How are we, gentlemen?
Absolutely fantastic. How are you, Woody?
Was last week the week I was grumpy? I can't remember. I've had a really good week. I'm in a positive frame of mind. That could have been years ago.
It'd be way easier to say it was last week, the week I was happy.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
Hutch.
Had that coming. It's all right. Way to set me off on a good tone, guys.
You going snap? Going snapper?
No snaptastic today. Woody's in
Really?
a good mood. Oh, no.
Hey, have you played lately?
Played on Friday, first game.
How'd it go?
Hutch's nephew, half my age or less, was and sick. What is it? What is David, like 6'3", 6 foot? He's a big.
Yeah,
kid.
he's about 6'2", 6'3", somewhere in there.
Yeah, and
He's a big boy.
he's in shape. He's athletic.
Kind of jacked. Yep.
Yeah, he was the goalie at the other end. So you can imagine how it went for me, Darren. I was clearly the second best goalie on the ice, and yet we managed to split a couple of games. So I had a good time. You know what? The biggest thing for me, I could walk the next day. That's all that matters. At this stage, that's the most important thing. And you want to know what else matters, Darren? I had fun.
Attaboy.
Mixed in a couple saves. Had a couple of stick taps from the boys. It's great. Life is good. It's happy Woody.
Way to go, Woody. We've never seen that before.
He quit beer league, right? So I don't have to deal with the jackasses that try and kill me out there. These guys are just out there to have a good time. It's great.
Hey, in summer skates or pickup skates, do you want to be the better goalie or do you want to be the underdog?
Well, I gotta be honest. Normally, the two skates, and it's not summer skates because they just started up for the fall. There's one on Monday and one on Friday, and I've said it before. These guys are all way better than me. Like, this is over my head, over my level. Bunch of guys that played pro. We've had guys actually come back and skate with us in between European contracts, and they take it seriously enough in terms of setting the teams that it's rarely one-sided. So I get you. Like sometimes when it's like,
But do you want to be the better goalie or the underdog goalie?
but there's no underdog goalie. You mean like in terms of like the teams? Like my team doesn't have a chance
do you
to win
want the guy at
underdog?
the other end? Do you want to be
Goalie, Woody. Goalie.
Like,
are you the better goalie on the
Am I
ice, or would
speaking
you rather
French?
not?
Yeah, but nobody knows. So what do you mean underdog goalie? Nobody, just because I'm old, I'm the underdog?
No,
Yeah.
he's asking what would you prefer. He didn't say you're underdog if you're old. He's saying which would you prefer to be.
I'd prefer to
It's a
be the
pretty
better.
simple question.
I'd prefer to be the better goalie because nobody in that room, other than the fact like this week the kid's half my age, knows that like they don't know us to know like, oh, you're the underdog today. So I'm taking better. I rarely
Everybody's
am.
yelling
I
at the
rarely
computer
am.
right now. Everybody's yelling at their phone at the podcast, just yelling like, Woody, it's goalie. You want to be the underdog or do you want to be the favorite, the better goaltender?
I don't know that even in 25 years of covering the NHL, I've ever looked at a matchup and thought, whoa, this guy's the underdog goalie today. Never. I've never
Really?
thought of it in those terms.
You've never watched a game and said this team has an advantage in net.
Yeah, but like, you're not playing the other goalie. I've never, it's like they have
We've
the better
had lots of
goaltending.
interviews where we've had people on here. Bill Ranford, I look at the guy at the other end of the ice and I want to beat him.
Yeah, but does he think I'm the underdog compared to him? Did he ever go into it thinking he was the underdog?
Maybe not.
Is
Maybe
that a
he went in
mindset?
thinking,
Do we need to bring on a mindset person to say
It might-
if you go into a game thinking you're the underdog, you've defeated yourself?
Well, and that's a fair question. I would not want to go in, but maybe if you're one of those glass half full, glass half empty people, which one are you? I'd rather
I'm
be the
definitely
under.
glass half full, right? We've established
Oh
that.
yeah, clearly you are glass half full of problems, and but maybe you'd rather be the underdog because then the expectations are a little lower. However many saves you choose to mix in, Woody, everybody's thrilled.
Hey, they're thrilled when I mix in any saves. Let me rewind this. Darren, I'd rather be the better goaltender, and I apologize for misunderstanding your question. I'm in a great mood today, and I'm not going to let my misunderstanding make me go snappy.
Thank goodness Hutch is here to translate for me.
Well, Darren, what kind of question is that? I mean, have you even considered the ice conditions? And did you think about how those pads were done up? And,
Yeah,
and
what
did I
model
have-
gear is that guy wearing anyway? Like I don't know, Darren.
My
How
warm
tall
up
is he?
my warm
How
up
young
stick
is
got
he?
broken. I'm the underdog as soon as my warm up stick fails.
Because I'm the underdog in every skate that I take part
Okay.
in.
I
No
will
kidding.
grant
You're in the NHL.
I will grant you that when the other guy's in the show at the other end, for sure.
And the other day, I was even with a guy, Andrew Stewart, who runs City National Arena, was the other goaltender in a summer skate. I was the taller goaltender. Sorry, Stewie. He listens all the time. Big fan of you guys. And I found it weird being in the 3-on-3, being on the same sort of level. I found there was more pressure on me as opposed to any save I make is a bonus. I was like, all of a sudden there's expectations on me. And so I was curious about that from Woody. I had no idea it was going to take 45 minutes to get an answer.
Well, it always does.
Right, so I would rather be the underdog guy.
Okay, like if you go in there with no expectations and think of it in those terms, like,
yes.
but to me also that I usually think of that, and that's me every skate with these guys because, like I said, everybody that's shooting on me played at a much higher level than I ever got to. So I think of myself as the underdog against them. I've just never thought of it in terms of the other goalie. But now that I think you're right, like there are times where the other guy, like the guy that usually comes out, played minor pro overseas. And so when all of a sudden it's another sort of fellow beer leaguer like me, maybe I feel like I should win, I guess. Maybe you're right, Darren. See, you have completely reshaped my thought process about random Monday and Friday skates.
That was a journey, wasn't it, Hutch?
This is pretty funny. I'm just thinking, Darren's describing skating with NHL players. Kevin's dropping, this guy played pro here, that guy's between contracts. And all I'm remembering is walking into a dressing room here in Nanaimo, and the guy on the bench beside me says, "Man, we should have my brother here. He played AAA novice."
So here's the funny thing.
True story.
So here's the best thing, and not to pump nephew David's tires too much, Mr. Hutchison.
Yeah.
But I had one of the guys that didn't play pro, played junior, come up to me after the first game, and nephew David pitched a shutout in the first one. He was really good. Come up to me in the first game and asked me where he played because he knew I knew him and asked me where he played.
Wow, that's cool.
And so I probably went up to nephew David and told him, "Don't tell them that you didn't," because I had that happen to me like 3-4 years ago. We had a guy who played ECHL, maybe a cup of coffee in the A, come out and skate with us. And for the first 3 or 4 skates, he just kept hitting me. Like it was almost like my reactions were slow enough that he was trying to put it where I would move away from, but I wasn't moving in time, so I couldn't get out of the way fast enough. Literally,
that's a legitimate thing.
It happens, 100%. Like, and he was getting some pretty good looks because he was, sometimes the guys that have played for a long time or like have been out of the game for a long time, but did play, and now this guy's fresh off, and you can just see that difference, right? And 5th skate, we're in the warm up stretching, and he comes up to me and asks me, "Hey, where'd you play?" And, after taking a few minutes to make sure my helmet still fit after, because it blew up rather largely, I said, "I didn't. I'm just a beer leaguer. I started in my mid-30s. I don't think I stopped them again for the next month." So you never let them know you didn't if they're asking. Take it as a compliment, but just nod and skate away because you might accidentally be in your heads. Although cousin David did a really good job, or nephew David did a really good job, and may have actually gotten in their head. So it was funny to see that.
All that really proves, because nephew David is actually my wife's nephew. He is the son of my wife's sister. So we are only related by marriage. All that proves is that my son is a good goaltender because of all the genes on my wife's side of the family and nothing to do with little short, unathletic me.
That's not true.
Well, he was good enough that I have him signed up to sort of be the fill-in guy for both of these skates. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna have to reel that in a little bit because the standards are gonna get a little too high and they're gonna punt me.
Did the shooter who asked you where you played take it as an insult when you said, "I didn't play"?
No, I didn't say it that way, right? I was pretty humble about it, and I realized afterwards that I probably shouldn't have told him that because he just absolutely torched me from that point on.
Well, good news.
I think he realized what was going on at that point, right? Like it clicked, like, oh, I'm overthinking this.
It's funny what you said because I think I probably told this story on here before. I was at an Eli Wilson camp once, and we asked John Quenville, who was playing in the American League at the time, who's the toughest goalie to score on out here? And he pointed to this kid who, working his tail off, awesome kid, but was, playing much above the level where he normally plays by being with this group. And he said him. And we're like, what are you talking about? He doesn't have nearly the experience of all these other kids. And he said, well, because he doesn't get out of the way of the puck. And it was exactly what you're talking about. He just, I'm shooting where I think he's going to get out of the way of. It was actually fascinating listening to John because he does think the game. What do you talk about overthinking it? how many shooters actually go beyond, I'm just going to shoot at that hole and think, where's the goalie going to move out of the way of? I think that's actually really impressive of a shooter. And he would bring the kids in frequently. And that was a real value add to that camp, is he would actually ask if he could bring the goalies in and just explain what he's seeing as a shooter. I think that was pretty cool experience.
Well, we could deep dive this even further and talk about, and I think it's decreased significantly the last number of years as some of the understandings of the mechanics and space and how we move improve. But for the longest time, like up until the last 5 or 6 years, you could look around the National Hockey League and find all kinds of examples of goalies who are in the space before the shot's released and have moved out of the way by the time it goes behind them out of the net. And people are probably scratching their head going, moved out of the way.
Yep.
Happens more than you think now, and it sure as hell happened a lot more than you think before we started to dig into some of these, different views on how we fill space and how we move into space. Or, more to the point, don't move out of it.
Even the simple act of moving out of the way of the puck as you move would be an awesome article for us to illustrate, but we don't want to throw anybody under the bus. So we might have to get the video camera out and do some shooting on Woody and then talk about how he gets out of the way of the puck.
Yeah, you want prime examples of getting out of the way of the puck? Yeah. Put me in that, baby.
No, but quite seriously, it would be a fascinating article because we've all seen it. It's amazing.
How many times have you butterflied on a shot and realized if you would have just stood up, it would have hit you? But you butterfly, and
you're starting to see that more and more with high level goaltenders in training, in trying to work patience. And gosh, you see UC Saros do it in the NHL where he just stays on his feet and catches a puck. And I think that is a sign of patience. And to work on that ability is something we should all be working on.
Yeah, and it goes really good till, as happened to me on Friday, I was feeling really, as it got going, I started to feel really good and not going down early because they're all going to shoot high. And then one guy got down sort of off the wing with a pass option, and I got a little deep and tried to stay up, and then he just threaded it 5-hole, and I hate that. I know that it shouldn't be something to get mad at, right? I've had this conversation in the NHL. Goalie coaches with management or head coaches being like, nothing through him. Remember that old mantra we used to hear? Nothing goes through you, nothing goes through you. And so whether it's a coach or even a GM getting mad at the goalie coach because too many have gone in 5-hole in the last little while and having to explain that, listen, if we prioritize him being down on every one of those to the point where it's early, now you've taken away the 5-hole goal, but given up everything around the perimeter of the net and cost him his patience. Like that sort of sliding scale dynamic of encouraging patience without, like, the same, my mindset, right? Like, I can't go in 5-hole like that on that. And I should have been saying, man, thought he was going to try and short side me high. I was being patient, like it's hard. It's hard, but like they fight
but
that battle all the time in the
more
NHL.
Often short side high. So you're there, right?
Yeah. And that's the difference with playing with decent players, because eventually they'll start to pick up on that trend and try and keep you honest. Of course, my 5-hole is basically the size of like a small boat.
Refrigerator. Yeah.
Yeah. You could row it out to sea and catch fish in my 5-hole.
Andrew Stewart, a great job of staying on his feet, and I actually picked up on some of that in our 3-on-3 because I was flopping all over the place trying to do RVH and all that kind of stuff. So
3-on-3 at 50 plus is not recommended, there.
No, it was the neutral zone 3-on-3 with the guys, and it was Stewie and I don't think Stewie played he didn't play pro for sure. I didn't play pro, and we're out there with all these super elite guys. And it was cool. We went back to the room after to our room because we weren't in the main room, and we just looked at each other and went, that was cool. Just to be two dudes, love the game, playing in a skate like that. It was awesome. I sent Woody a picture actually because I came off the ice.
Thanks for sharing with me, Darren. I know.
That's
really cool.
Wanted to explain that. I came off the ice and there was a text from Woody about when we were going to record. And so I thought, I'll just send it back a quick picture. That's why it went straight to Woody. And
I'm not hurt.
I should not have brought that up at all.
Okay. I was probably busy slaving away, editing all the stuff for this week. You guys just have your fun. Yeah.
Now I want to rewind it. But it was very, very, very cool.
It's all good.
So I got a question for you, Darren.
Yeah.
In that skate with that elite level player, especially in that environment, those little three, are they trying to make perfect passes and cross ice? Or if they get you in a dead angle, are they trying to pick little spots between you and the post if you don't actually go seal?
Oh, they pick spots.
The little cute little. There was a guy on Friday that I know does that, so I was looking for it, and sure enough, he tried it like 4 or 5 times on plays where normally at my my level, I'd be like, okay, he's in a dead area, he's gonna look to pass, or I can. And let's be honest, at our, well, maybe not you, but me, my conditioning not being what yours is, there are times where you get into those dead angles and I should probably use a reverse or use something that covers this and gives me the coverage. But your body's just a little tired and you don't quite feel like dropping that knee into the post, right? Like, okay, and you think in the back of your mind, you're like, yeah, hold your edges. That's what they tell you to do here, right? Just hold your edges. That's the new mantra. And you're thinking, because it's way too tiring to go.
Thought process spin through my mind.
But this guy, just because I know he likes to do it, and I made sure that I had the short side sealed, even when he got down below the goal line, because he'll try those. And there were 3 or 4 where he did. And I'm like, okay, there you go. Like, this is why we do this. This is why real goalies do this, because goalies at that or shooters at that level they see that you're not dropping that leg, and they will try and bank it in off the back leg if you're standing on your, the just stand up crowd. So it's kind of funny to sort of, but if he wasn't out there, honestly, in my skate, he's the only guy that does it to that degree with that level of skill. If he wasn't out there that day, I probably would have taken more breaks on pucks below the goal line.
Hey, Darren, quite seriously, I'm very curious. You've been out there with these guys enough. Have you started to figure out tendencies with these guys? Who's more likely to shoot where? Who's more likely to dish it? You don't have to give names away, obviously, but how much have you learned?
Yeah, each guy's got a little bit of a tendency. And some of them, quite honestly, even when I'm guessing, I just had this conversation with a fella on Friday. I cheated. I guessed where he was going, and he still ripped it by me.
Give you a better chance, just not enough.
And I said to him, I knew you were going there. I cheated. He's like, I know you're cheating. And he still put it in. But yeah, there's certain guys that got one guy loves to go 5-hole and bugs me about it all the time. And he may not score every time. He doesn't, but on that. But when he does, he just giggles.
Love it.
It's awesome.
That's the difference. At your level with those guys, Darren, even when you cheat, like they'll see you cheating and be like, he's cheating. I gotta keep him honest. They'll be like, he's cheating. I'm gonna beat him there anyways.
Yeah. And I try to play it legit. Like there's some guys that will come out and will over challenge on flow drills just to try and keep it out. You gotta play to the depth that a regular goalie would play, even if they score. It's not good if you're coming 5 feet out extra just to pad your own ego, kind of thing.
It's true. It's an interesting thought. We're a little
because the guys don't like it. The guys get sour.
Yeah, I was just thinking about. I mean, we're a little late for it now, but at tryout time, I've actually spoken to a goalie coach who suggests that his goalies read the situation. You're in a tryout. It's a flow drill. They have to shoot. Take more ice. I know you wouldn't do it in a game, but you're trying to make a team here.
Well, and that's the coach. The coach. A lot of times, the head coach doesn't really. All he sees is the puck going in or the puck being stopped. We've had this conversation, and it shifted. But I've had this conversation with National Hockey League goaltenders. I remember Jason LaBarbera in his career would be like, I know I don't play this way, but I haven't played in a couple of weeks. I need the coach to see me making some saves, so I will come out in these drills because they're not realistic and make a bunch of saves so the coach sees it. That's the National Hockey League where they supposedly had a goalie coach to advise. Like, these things happen. These things can matter. So it's, it's kind of interesting. And here's the flip side. If you're coming out that far on a flow drill because you know they have to shoot, you're just basically playing hit me.
Right.
Wouldn't you rather be a little deeper and give yourself time to react? And I guess that's an individual preference thing too.
I've never bought that one. Think about a puck coming at 80 miles an hour and you're 1 foot further away. Like, how much time does that really give you? How long does it take I guess an hour shot to cover a foot?
Well, we're talking, Darren's talking about like 5 feet out kind of thing, like flow drill way out there kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so.
I've always found that one though to be a bit of a, I know psychologically it helps, but
I think there's a difference between toes on the edge of the ice and heels on the edge of the ice and actually like 2 or 3 feet outside. I remember when my kid was, really, really young and they would bring out
guys to tryouts who were much older and the puck would really hurt. I just said, get 5 feet above so it hits you in the pads, not in the arms. That's the old 1970s style. We used to come out for self-preservation as well.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a quote from my friend Doug McLean, who ran the Columbus Blue Jackets, coached the Florida Panthers to a Stanley Cup final. First time they got to a Stanley Cup final. This describes me in goal, but I want to give Doug credit for this.
Oh, love it.
I'm like Michael Jackson. I wear one glove for no apparent reason. That's my glove hand. That's
he
my
is a
glove hand.
beauty.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I would get that printed up in large print and framed and put on my wall. That's awesome, Darren.
I
with
wear
a
one
photo
glove for no apparent reason.
I might have a goalie jersey made up with that quote on the chest.
That's awesome.
So Woody had his big ego, and it was having trouble fitting his head into his mask, which is perfect for our Hockey Shop gear segment presented by the Hockey Shop, source for Sports Langley, thehockeyshop.com, as we are going to dive into CCM custom masks.
Yeah, well, you've heard us talk about the CCM AXIS XF mask and the fact that the liner was 3D printed. And we kind of teased this back when, because we knew this was coming, we just didn't know when. Well, it's here, and it's available at retail, and Cam and his crew at the Hockey Shop are able to set you up with a custom fitting. We've had the custom fitted skates. Now we have a custom fitted mask. Well, how do they do it? First, they get you the right shell. Obviously, a lot of companies, including CCM, have given multiple shell sizes to make sure that they give more fit access to more different size and shape heads. But now we can actually customize the way that 3D printed liner is constructed so that it's optimum for your shape of head, even my odd shape of head. So we're going to go to Cam. Cam's going to explain how it works. Now, caveat here, folks. This is a bit of a tough one for us because the audio, there's a lot of, he's got an iPad out and he's scanning our head while I'm wearing a very unique looking sort of bonnet is what they call it. Not the most flattering thing to put on. It's the closest I've ever felt to an F1 driver. Also the silliest I think I've looked. He scans it. There's a whole process. This is one you really need to go watch on the YouTube channel as well. We're going to try and streamline it here for audio, but make sure you go watch this one. At the end of the day, we've always said fit is one of the most important things when getting a mask. CCM's given you the opportunity, the possibility of having your mask actually customized specifically for you without having the shell be a one-off construction. So let's go to Cam. Let's get more at the Hockey Shop, source for sports. Welcome back to the Hockey Shop, source for sports, where I am getting dizzy because this mask doesn't fit. But thankfully, CCM now has, not just the different sizes, which I already could get a bigger size, basically the first customizable liner, 3D printed, molded to your head to design a perfect fit. Never been done before in this manner.
That's certified, CSA certified, HEC certified. That's a big deal.
So let's get me into a mask that doesn't feel like it's 3 sizes too small. Cam, walk us through the details.
And let's get his head scanned up. All right, we're back. We have Kevin sitting down in our Fitman chair. He's holding a stock medium mask, which fits him the closest. We're going to get him to put that on right now. The first step of the scanning process, we want to find a stock helmet that fits him technically the closest. And I want to grab a couple of quick pictures of that all the way around. So, next step, because the medium helmet fits him the best, we're going to move into the scanning process. So now we're going to get him to fit on the wonderful scanning bonnet. I need you to put this on. Beautiful.
Well, beautiful might not be the word I'd describe, but I feel like I'm ready for something.
We'll go with
F1
stylish.
maybe? Put my helmet on and do
Okay, so now we're going to grab a couple of quick pictures while he's got the actual bonnet on, just to show off. So the purpose of him having the bonnet on is to completely flatten out the hair so we get a complete smooth surface all the way around. So that will be able to scan your face a little bit better, and also, too, to create that right, proper custom fit for that helmet, okay?
Does hair become an issue here? Mine is
like lush and thick. And when it was longer, like Spicoli style, would that have messed us up?
The only thing that's messed up right now is listening to you talk inside of it. So we're going to grab a couple of quick pictures of Kevin inside the bonnet now, just to show off that proper fit, okay? We'll get one from the side.
These end up on the internet, Cam. You're dead.
We'll get one from the other side. Perfect. And now we are going to start our scan. We are scanning his face, building that 3D mold right now, all the way around. And there we have his full scan of Kevin's head. So, that would be what your head looks like.
This is why I never shave my head. Look at that thing. Couple of options.
So, you have your option between white or black.
White,
Cage selection.
non-certified cat eye, but I can't get that here.
That's not available in Canada, so it has to be either certified cat eye or straight bar.
Certified cat eye.
You want this certified cat eye. All right, poor style, but that's fine. Cage color, white or black, or white or chrome.
Chrome.
Chrome cage. What color strap would you like?
Ooh, colored straps. I'll take royal blue. I didn't know that was an
Royal
option.
blue.
Custom strapping.
You have the option to have your name stamped into the back of the helmet.
Ooh, Civ. 1. I mean, it's kind of synonymous with Woody.
Player number
1, because number 1 says it all, Cam.
1.
Learn
Number
that
one
one
Civ.
from Roberto.
Number 1 Civ.
Yeah, number 1 Civ.
All right. And we are basically set to place your order.
Sweet.
One. So we've completed the scan. We're all ready to submit the order. So Kevin could take off the bonnet, but you know what? He looks so good with it on. We're just going to leave it on for now. So 8 to 10 weeks. There is an upcharge for custom. Give us a call to find out exactly what that is. 604-589-8299 or 1-800-567-7790. Remember, this is an in-person thing. It's not something that can be done online. You have to come in store to be able to get this done. But either myself or the wonderful team members of the shop will be able to help you find your perfect custom fit for a CCM AXIS helmet.
We've talked a lot about the importance of fit with masks, about how that's the most important thing, and we've applauded companies like CCM and Power for offering a wide variety of fit ranges in each of them, and that didn't used to be the case. This takes it to a completely another level. You get the shell shape that's ideal for you, and then you get a liner that is custom molded to your face. I can't wait to
Certified.
Experience it for myself.
Exactly. Thanks, Kevin.
What just happened there is old school with new school technology. Anyway, because people had custom fit masks from the beginning of the mask, where you put the
That's the only way you could get them.
Yeah, you put it on and take a mold of your face, and boom. And that was with the old mask to the cage combos, and now we're just without all the plaster, we're getting it done.
The difference, of course, and those are still available, right? Like we think of Pro's Choice that does custom masks for goalies. There's companies that take a shell and then pad, the thickness in certain areas to make it fit. None of those are certified, right? So this is the first time that you've been able to get a certified for minor hockey, whether it's heck or say, like you get a certified mask with these custom options. That's the difference.
Now, Hutch, you had a plaster form fit mask made, right?
I did.
At some point?
I did. I never had the form fitting fiberglass mask. I did play in the old Jacques Plante fiberglass one. It's when he tried to take what everybody was doing in custom and bring it to retail as
right.
And there were these tiny little thin foam strips that you would put in it to try and make it fit your face.
Used those for road hockey back.
Oh my gosh, it was terrible. So I have had that, and I've done the plaster fitting to do a more modern mask by a company that isn't in business anymore, but where they custom built the shell for me. Yeah, pretty cool to be able to go through.
It was a cool moment. Like you felt like you'd passed a certain point in your goaltending journey.
Yeah,
getting that plaster put on.
Well, look, it's so cool that if there was a company out there that could do for me, whether it's the old Ken Dryden style I see over your shoulder there, Darren, or whatever, the old standard fiberglass mask from when we were kids, if there was a company that would make those custom for me, that's something I would love to have done still, just to hang on the shelf. Because I've never been through it for that type of mask.
See, you guys are romanticizing the old like plaster and two straws up the nose so you could breathe. If you recall, and folks can go back to the old episode with Alex Ald, where he got in and they got the plaster on his face, and all of a sudden the question comes, how much time do you have?
Right.
Why? Because I forgot the quick dry. So poor Alex sitting there in that mask for, and interestingly enough, Alex, with a very uniquely shaped head, was one of the guys that sort of created some of the pushback in junior hockey, because up until that point, you can only wear a certain mask, and it just didn't fit him and wasn't safe in his mind. And I think that's a fair assessment. It wasn't safe because it didn't fit properly. He needed something something different, something custom. And so, it goes back to, there's a lot of different debates about, safety and masks, and they're all fair conversations. But, talking to some of the historical mask makers, the guys that have done this for years, like, it really is about having one that fits your head properly. And this is another way to make sure that, the CCM models available fit your head better than they might off the rack.
I would love to know, and when all this comes to a conclusion, how different your mask is that was just custom fit with the new technology compared to an off-the-shelf mask. Like where the gaps are really felt or noticeable.
Maybe we're gonna have to follow up on the measurement Cam did in my head by actually ordering one of these and seeing the feel. It would be interesting, especially in this mask. And if it is more connection points with that 3D printed material on the face, on the cheek, on the forehead, wherever they are. I guess the forehead would have a sweatband. Feeling those connection points would be very interesting if you felt more of them. And I think you'd notice it right away, especially because, and Hutch, I don't even know if you've had a chance to I know you're not playing right now, but even to have it on, the material feels very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like it noticeably in the connection points feels cool against your skin compared to foam.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm curious to know whether you would feel cool, whether you are or not, like, and obviously the 3D printing, the design is all about thermal regulation and helping to make sure that the heat escapes easier. But just the surface of it feels really cool. And I wonder if you'd feel cooler in that if you had more connection points with it. I'm not saying you would. I'd be curious to feel it. My intuition is you might, because in the spots where it does connect to me, I notice that even during a game, even when I'm soaked in sweat, and believe me, that happens quickly, how much cooler that mask feels against my skin.
I think it's worth clarifying for people who haven't seen it. You could go check out the AXIS XF mask stuff we've got on the site, but that isn't a standard foam that they're 3D printing. It's like a 3D lattice almost. So there's as much air in there as there is material, and that's creating some of the gap for you. So it's, yeah. So you have to see the pictures to see it, but it's pretty cool stuff. And when I first saw it in images, I assumed it would be sort of rigid, but it actually feels quite soft as well.
Very, very like there's more, and then it designs so that on impact, it much like an impact absorbing foam, it'll sort of protect you by sort of seizing up and
but then it returns to its shape, right?
Right,
Yeah,
exactly,
for sure,
exactly.
for sure.
Yeah,
It's not like the honeycomb that just breaks. And
Honeycomb's a great way of putting it, yeah, but doesn't break you.
But I can't remember how many different touch points and little lattice points are in it. It's
thousands.
Yeah, I think it might be more like tens.
I think 10.
Tens of thousands. Yeah, it's
curious,
it's a fascinating thing to watch this evolution of
to
technology.
an off-the-shelf one. Where is it all?
That's what I'm. Yeah, no.
We will find out.
We need to find out. Just and again, how that feels different.
Because it doesn't all need to touch your face because of different.
No, but the more it touches,
mechanics.
the more it's going to spread out the impact, right? I mean, if you just had, say, one touch point, then all that impact goes into that one place on your face. If you touch completely, then you're spreading out the impact, and presumably is going to make things feel better.
Well, and the other part too is I imagine a lot of it would be like we're talking about face, and that's where you might feel it the most, but probably up around hairline and over the back of the head, even because the 3D printed mold goes all the way Like the back plate has this cushioning, this 3D printed
Oh, it does.
cushioning as well. Yeah, it's on the back plate. It's a very, very comfortable mask.
What age are we talking about to go through this process? Because if you're a growing child from 10, 12, 16, like your head is changing a lot.
That's a would be a great question for CCM to what's the range in how long this is going to fit, because I think that's a great point. I bought my son a CCM's top level mask when he was very young. Happened to have a large melon, so it fit him, and I felt protecting his head was the most important thing. So we spent the money. So I would have been tempted for sure. I remember Woody's talked before about going into the hockey shop, and Cam will actually dissuade parents from buying something too expensive if it's not right for their kid. And I wanted to get some custom skates made for my son, and he talked me out of it for the very reason that you're talking about, Darren. He's going to grow, and it won't be too long before these custom things don't fit. So I'd love to know what sort of tolerance they build into it. And we'd have to talk to CCM, because we've seen the 3D printing in person, and it is quite precise. You can imagine that it could fit you, quote unquote, like a glove. And so that very quickly a child might grow out of it. But you got to think there must be some tolerance built into that. Funny story on a related note. This is old man problem. How many people have clothes in their closet that they're just hoping will fit again one day or something? I know there's a lot of middle-aged folks.
I have a buddy
like that.
who has multiple pairs of pants with the tag still on them.
Yeah. I've got an aspirational shelf in my closet.
I have the suit I wore in the suit I wore for my wedding. It's sort of a semi-regular check-in thing for me.
So where's Hutch going on this? I was getting that custom mask made, and they sent me the kit to do the plaster. You could actually do it in your home, and my wife helped me with it. And it sat there on the shelf for the longest time because I kept thinking, well, I'm trying to lose some weight here, and I want this thing to fit for the long term. So I'm not going to do the mold until I've dropped 20 pounds. Like, swear to you, that's exactly what happened. Now, the funny thing is, and it had nothing to do with my own weight gain or weight loss, when it did come, it actually didn't fit. It was too big. So again, company doesn't exist anymore, so I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but that was being done by hand. That wasn't being done with this 3D printing process, which of course, like I said, we've seen the precision of.
We've got our NHL Sensorina feature interview with Clay Stevenson coming up right around the corner. Clay's just arrived. He's just getting settled over in the green room, which gives us an opportunity to check in with Stop It Goaltending U, the app. Our parent segment is on the way, but the latest from Stop It Goaltending U.
You know what? I think one of the best things I love about Stop It Goaltending U is the different formats they give you. It's a busy time of the year. We've talked about tryouts, minor hockey starting up. Sometimes tryouts are still going on as the games start up. Got junior hockey starting up. Everybody is busy. So if you don't have time this week to dig into their weekly 20-minute deep dive, or even some of their 10 or 15-minute videos, just use the daily primers. Quick 1-minute videos to help you become a better goaltender. New topics every week, and they usually try and tie them into things that are going on at this time of year for most goaltenders. So whether you want to dive in and go down rabbit holes, or whether you just want a quick little piece of advice that's going to resonate, something you can take on the ice that day, or after you're done the ice, I think this week was about sort of how to sort of assess and sort of take notes of things you're working on in practice. Stop It Goaltending U, the app, has something for everyone. And best of all, it also comes with a membership to InGoal Magazine, InGoal Mag Premium, and all our subscriber content. So you get the best of both worlds. You get all our NHL content, pro reads, pro drills, all the stuff we're putting up on a regular basis at ingoalmag.com. And you get everything that Stop It brings with their now 25 plus years of experience coaching in the industry. Make sure you check out both. Subscription to Stop It Goaltending U, the app, gets you a subscription to InGoal Magazine to make you a better goaltender.
Hutch, you have some company in this week's parent segment.
I do. I have had the question come in many times over the last few weeks. Parents wondering how they can control their own stress, their own anxiety in the rink. It is difficult to be a goalie parent. It has to be amongst the most difficult sport parenting positions in the world. And people want to know how they can make the experience better for themselves. I started to put together answers. I have a lot of things that I do share with other parents. But then I thought to myself, what I'm starting to tell parents here is exactly what I would tell an athlete. Why don't I actually bring in a pro? Because it felt like I was getting maybe a little bit out of my lane with some of the things that I wanted to suggest. And I thought, let's bring in a pro. And fairly recently, we have gotten to know today's guest, Luciano Sommerville. He is a registered clinical counselor. He consults with teams and athletes. And it turns out, I didn't know till our interview, with parents as well. And I met him actually because his brother plays in the East Coast Hockey League, his brother Nico, and has been shooting on my son in the summers for the last 2 or 3 years. And they've become good buddies. And I found out that his brother was a sports psychologist. And I thought, wow, this is a guy I need to get to know. And he actually was quite a hockey player in his own right. So we struck up a conversation, and this happened to be something I thought would be interesting to bring him on so that he could help answer that question. What do we do about our own stress as goalie parents? How do we deal with our own anxiety heading into the rink?
I think it's a great connection between the goaltender in your family and the parent, and a lot of what is happening on the ice you can take advantage of. There's a huge connection here. Fascinating conversation with Luciano Sommerville on the Stop It Goaltending You, the app, parent segment, and InGoal Radio, the podcast.
This week's parent segment, we wanted to do just a little bit differently. And it's a common question that's come into us quite a bit, which is how do we control our own personal anxiety as parents in games? It's pretty tough being a goalie parent, as we all know. And we want the best for our kids. We want them to have a great experience. And we take a lot of that stress on board. So how can we deal with it? I've got a lot of my own answers because I've had a little bit of experience myself. But as I was putting that answer together for someone, I thought, wow, this sounds exactly like what I might say to a goaltender as well. So let's bring in a sports psychologist. And my guest today, Luciano Sommerville, Luch as the players call him, played Canadian college hockey, played a little bit of pro over in Europe. He has a master's in counseling and is a registered clinical counselor. And he helps with performance for athletes and teams and other areas of mental health as well. So Luch was not a goaltender, but has been spotted at some local high-level goalie skates as a shooter and can still rip it. So Luch, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So, Luch, you're used to working with athletes feeling stress and the anxiety of performance. What do you say to a goalie parent who's experiencing something similar?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think probably not unlike a lot of the stuff that you've, I'm sure, already touched on in the past, or that you might say to someone who is actually a goalie. I would definitely agree with those things. I think a lot of the things that I talk to players and goalies about in regards to like performance anxiety, stress, nervousness, like all that kind of stuff, all the physiological impacts of like going into big performances that come up, I think are also like when we talk about those things and the tools that we come up with and the tools that we use to kind of like cope with that stress or anxiety, I think a lot of those tools can also be used for parents who are in the stands. And as I'm sure you've touched on before, I think for parents, it's maybe more so difficult because they are in the stands and they really have no control of the outcome or of what's going on the ice. And so it's really about like utilizing some of those tools and strategies and stuff like that. But it's also about having that mindset of like, okay, like I need to come to a place where I'm accepting of like what the outcome is going to be because that's out of my control. And I kind of have to just like relinquish that need to control like what's going on the ice and just kind of like trust that my son or daughter, whoever's playing, is going to perform at the best of their ability. And sometimes that doesn't happen too, and that's okay. And just being able to provide a space to be able to support them afterwards in that.
Can we just take one step backwards, because you talked about those physiological responses to stress and anxiety, and I think it's probably worth normalizing that for everybody to say that it is okay that we're feeling that way. So what are those common responses to anxiety? How does our body tend to react?
I think everyone reacts to anxiety and stress differently. I mean, there are some of the more common impacts that we might have where we might notice that we start sweating more, heart rate increases in races, our blood pressure goes up, like all these kind of things that we might feel physiologically. And there's definitely different techniques that are scientifically proven to kind of like help mitigate some of those effects that we feel physiologically. For example, if you were experiencing an increase in heart rate, you might want to try just focusing on your breathing and really trying to like calm that heart rate down. And I know Andrew Huberman has a technique called the physiological sigh that
Yep.
I've come to adopt myself, but also that I also try to teach and help others try to incorporate into some of their practices because it's scientifically proven as one of the fastest and most effective ways of like reducing our physiological response to stress and anxiety. So
That's so cool to hear because I literally was doing that 2 days ago. It was not at a hockey game, but I was
yeah,
feeling some serious stress, and I've done the deep breathing as a goalie parent before, and it kind of works. And then I noticed this one online, and I tried it, and it made a difference. Can you tell us a little bit more about how somebody would do it?
yeah, absolutely. And again, this is not my like technique or anything like that. It's something I got from Andrew Huberman. But it is something that like I said, I like to use with players and goalies and athletes and also non-athletes as well. But particularly athletes find it helpful because it's quick, it's simple, and it's kind of like yeah, it's just really effective and really like concise. So basically what you want to do is you want to take an inhale, like a regular inhale, but then at the top of that, you're also going to take another extra inhale. So sometimes instead of calling it physiological sigh for especially the younger kids, I like to call it like double breathing because it
There
makes
you go.
sense to them.
Yeah,
So
that's
they
cool.
take 2 breaths in and then one long exhale. And what we're doing is, especially like when we're physiologically aroused in like a stress or anxiety response, our breathing tends to actually get shorter, which means we're intaking less oxygen into our lungs and we're obviously not maximizing our lung capacity. So what we're doing is we're taking that normal breath in, but then we're taking another extra breath in and really getting down to the bottom of our lungs and maximizing that lung capacity and potential for oxygen.
That first one kind of feels like it's completely full, right? And then you're overfilling a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like really like I said, maximizing the potential for oxygen intake in that initial, inhale. And
Mhm.
then the long, slow exhale is really where we're like calming our nerves and calming our stress response and calming our heart rate and all that kind of stuff.
I find that extra breath, that tension actually creates some sort of physical release as well as it comes out.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. You even after like one or two, you just like even if you're just like sitting there and your heart rate isn't really high, you just do a couple of those and you feel even more relaxed and at peace. So especially in those heightened states where the heart rate's going up, the physiological response is high, you do a couple of those and you'll notice pretty much right away, instantly, it start to come down.
Highly recommended. Like I said, I've tried it. It's something you can do sort of quietly in your corner in the rink. Nobody knows you're doing it. I think the first time I saw Huberman talk about it, there was actually this huge release of the sigh that I don't think you need to do to get some benefit of this. You can be sort of
Totally.
stealth.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's very subtle, which is a good thing too.
Yeah, definitely. So that's one thing we can try. Is there anything sort of before the game as we head into it that we need to think about?
I think a lot of the same things an athlete would take into a game in terms of their mindset and how they prepare is an important part of like being a parent too. And mind you, all of this stuff is my experience based on my education and training and also my work with parents who are parents of athletes. I myself am not a parent, so I don't have the firsthand experience. Hopefully someday soon, but then I'll be tested to practice what I preach. But for going into a game, like I said, I think it would be not unlike what an athlete would go into a game focused on. Like you want to focus on your process. You want to focus on some of the things that are in your control. So as a parent going into a game, watching your kid, what's in your control? Well, you can control your body language. You can control the stress response if you work on that and work on the breathing and stuff like that. You can control your response verbally or emotionally or whatever that might be. And so focusing on the things that you can control as opposed to the things that you can't control, such as results, such as the way that your child is actually performing on the ice. I'm sure there could be other things that are maybe out of your control. But that would be my suggestion going into the game, is really being intentional and focusing on, okay, like what is in my control? What are my intentions going into this? And really like being set on that kind of like mindset of like, okay, this is in my control.
I know when we talk to goaltenders, we'll talk about having a plan sometimes, or at least I do. Getting scored on, sometimes things happen that are out of your control there. And more than just don't worry about what you can't control, what will your response be when something out of your control happens? To me, that's a bit of the process. And so for goalie parents, I talk about how are you going to react when the puck goes in? Because we all would love to see a shutout, but we're probably not going to tonight. What's your personal response going to be other than just don't stress? Like, does that make any sense to have a plan for that?
Yeah, I think going back to the exact same thing I said before with like, I think a lot of the things that I talk about with athletes would also apply to parents here.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to say some of the cliches like, oh, like don't worry about it, like just be positive, like move forward, blah, blah, blah. Like, and we all would love to for those cliches to be effective, but they're not that effective. So one thing that I like to talk about with a lot of athletes, and it works particularly well with goalies, especially after mistakes or after goals are scored, is having some sort of reset routine. So
Okay.
that's like really checking in with themselves, thinking about what happened, accepting it, letting it go, and then using some sort of breathing strategy. And then like, okay, like I need to refocus, like what's my intention moving forward? So I use the analogy of like shutting off the car, just letting it sit for a second, just being present in the moment, and then restarting the car and like refocusing.
So as a parent, is that sort of, as I go to the game, I'm saying to myself, well, I'm not going to overreact when that puck goes in, if it does tonight. And I'll take a moment. I'll take 3 seconds, 5 seconds and say nothing, do nothing, and just tell myself it's okay. And then maybe try some of that breathing, some sort of a plan like that. I assume it would be fairly personal, but does that make some sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think something else too is I've been talking to a lot of athletes lately about self-compassion. And there's actually 3 different components to self-compassion. There's self-kindness, there's common humanity, and there's mindfulness. Self-kindness is being kind of like accepting and understanding of that failures and mistakes are going to happen and there's going to be setbacks and adversity. And rather than being judgmental and harsh towards oneself or another person, we want to be kind towards ourselves or towards other people. So as opposed to like self-critical, self-talk and stuff like that, we want to talk positively to ourselves and to others. The common humanity piece is that, from a goalie's perspective, every single goalie in the entire world, including the best goalies in the world, are going to get scored on at some point, and that's just the reality of it. And so putting that into perspective of like zooming out of like how big one goal feels, and then zooming out being like, hey, like even the best goalies in the world get scored on. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the end of the world. We're going to get through this, and we're also going to learn and grow from this. So like having that piece of common humanity is an important part of that. And then the third part is the mindfulness part of like being okay, like in tune as a parent. So like what's going on for me right now? What am I feeling? And, normalizing and validating that that's okay to feel that. And we also control our response to that too. So that's a big piece that I like to talk to a lot of athletes about. And I think it's definitely applicable here.
And I think as a goalie parent, you talked about being kind to yourself, but also being kind to others. And there is that reaction in the moment to either be upset with our child. How could you do that? That's a terrible goal. Or maybe we're upset with others, to the defenseman because it went off his shin pad, or the forward who went straight-legged and didn't back check. We've got to let those things go too.
Totally. Yeah. And if we hold on to those, then we're holding on to unnecessary stress. And I also realize that's a lot easier said than done to let go of the stress, but we all need to find our own process of like, okay, what's our outlet? How do we manage and cope with stress, and how do we release it?
Well, we all have, maybe you're lucky enough to have training camp in the preseason to sort of get into your system. And like you said, it's easier said than done.
Totally. Yeah.
Any tips in that when it feels for parents like there's something really big at stake? Trying out, for example, you're watching your kid, you just really hope they make their first rep team ever, or, they're in a tough battle to play on that team that they've always dreamt of playing on. think the stakes are a little bit higher. Does that change the game for parents?
I mean, I definitely think that it's increased stress for parents, but I would imagine, and I'm maybe speaking from more of my own personal experience as being an athlete and having parents that have responses as well, is like, as kids, especially when we're growing up, we look to our parents to model behavior and to model regulation. So we really are co-regulators of our parents. So if we see our parents at very high stress levels and high anxiety and how they show their emotions and express their emotions, we're probably going to take that on as our own kind of way of doing things and our own way of expressing emotions and experiencing emotions. So I think as we grow older, we learn to kind of like develop our own ways, but also it doesn't differ all that much from how we, learn to do it growing up. So going into something like a trial or some sort of high pressure situation, if a parent's feeling more stressed, then it might rub off on the kid, especially if they're a little bit younger, that they're going to feel more stressed. And I think from my experience in working with parents, it's often that when they also or witness their children experience stress, they want to do anything they can to try and like take it away or get rid of it, or just kind of like push it to the side and be like, you know what, it's fine. Like, you're going to get through it. Like, it's okay. Like, and because from a parent perspective, I'm assuming that you wouldn't want to see your kid go through anything that's like difficult or a struggle, right? So it's like hard to watch them do that. So you want to take that away and make it better for them. But that's also how we learn to get through those moments, is by navigating it ourselves. If we're always taken out of those situations, then we're never going to learn how to manage and cope with stress that comes up in those situations. So something that I often talk to parents of athletes about is like something that was taught to me in my master's program, which is a very simple yet profound technique. And well, not really technique, just like piece of advice. And it's get curious, not furious. And you can change out furious for anything else. It's just curious and furious rhyme, obviously. So instead of showing your emotion and kind of like projecting that emotion onto your kid of the stress and anxiety and whatever you might be feeling, maybe ask them how they're feeling about it, and ask them like what they're focused on, and ask them questions and get curious about their experience of it, because I think it's just automatically assumed that parents and kids will have the same or feel the same experience, and that's not always the case too. So asking questions and giving them a little bit more autonomy about like how they might be feeling might go a long way.
It's fantastic. There were two pieces to that I heard there, and really resonated with me. One of which has me thinking I need to change my game here a little bit as well. The first was that as parents, we can project our feelings onto our children, and they can start to reflect how we're feeling. And I've mentioned that on the show before, how I think it's important, if there's a playoff game the night before, you don't create more anxiety by telling them, let's get to bed early, tomorrow's a big day, or hey, how you feeling about tomorrow? It's a huge game. I think we can create anxiety there. But then the piece that maybe I've been missing that I love that you added there was that we can't just take all the stress away from the kids, or we can't just push it to the side and pretend it's not there. Those two things are difficult to balance, though, I would assume.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's not something that's easy to kind of like, again, relinquish that kind of control. But if we, as parents, if you want your kid to be able to handle certain situations and adversity and stress and failure and mistakes, which everyone does, because that's how we learn and we grow, and that's how we persevere and eventually become successful, then we can't just be taken out of those situations. We have to go through it, not around it or over it or under it or just completely avoid it at all. So I think it's important for kids to be, and for adolescents and even adults to go through adversity and to like be able to navigate their own way through that adversity as well.
That's fabulous. Luch, I have taken way more of your time than I promised to right at the beginning, but I appreciate you sharing all of that with us. I feel like we could do a deep dive on this and spend an hour and a half on a longer show. You got fantastic advice. And also wonderful for me to hear that you work with parents as well. I've known you've worked with athletes for a while, and I think it's important. One last little thing, I don't know, comment from me, or I'd love to hear what you think on this, is I love that mental health and dealing with mental health is becoming more normalized today in society. And I have definitely spoken to some parents in the past who've sounded like things are beyond the normal anxiety issue when dealing with their kids. And at least for me personally, I think letting them know that if these techniques aren't working with you, talking to a mental health professional wherever is okay, because we want this to be a great experience for us personally, and more importantly for our kids.
Yeah, I think it's really I think in terms of like the mental health aspect, the stigma has really come down a lot, which is really, really cool to see, especially in the field of sports that for so long had such a strong stigma against talking about things and getting help and that sort of thing. So I'm really, really glad and appreciative that of all the work that everyone's done to kind of like make it more normal and make it more more mainstream and more acceptable for athletes and non-athletes to be able to seek help, because I think we all need help at some point, and it's okay to need help by someone else too. Like, we can't do it alone, and we need to be able to rely on others and support others as well. So that's why I do what I do and why I'm so passionate about what I do. And yeah.
Fabulous. Thanks for taking the time again. And thank you for the important work that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on. It was a pleasure.
Put you on the spot. What was your favorite part of that? And I'll start by just saying the breathing, the parent doing the breathing during a stressful situation or an intense situation is a great tool to use when you're up in the stands.
Absolutely is. It's something that I've been doing for years, and something that I had just learned about. So I do it, and it helps, and it works. My favorite part of that was that I had actually sent him an email beforehand and said, hey, just so you know, we'll do anything you want to do, but these are the things that are running through my head on the topic. And I mentioned that Andrew Huberman technique, the physiological sigh. I think some of these guys on the internet are much like goalie coaches who need to give fancy terms to things that we all do just to make them sound cooler. I love that Luch called it double breathing just to make it clearer. What was cool for me was that he'd been doing the exact same thing with his clients. So I'd been trying the breathing myself. I discovered Huberman's technique. I found it actually worked. And then Luciano himself brings it up in the interview. So I don't know, maybe it was a little validating. Nice to know that it works. And then frankly, Darren, the most exciting part was when he brought up that he works with parents. It never crossed my mind that a parent would reach out and ask for help, but I think it's a great idea, and I'm glad that people have chosen to do that with him.
Societal, that's a progress.
Right. Well, it is, and we talked about that in the interview. The whole area around mental health is just, the stigma is leaving, and I think that's so important and so good. We all need somebody to talk to from time to time, and whether that's a goaltender who's struggling or a parent who's struggling, we have a chance to make things better for all of us. So why not take advantage?
Woody, serious question. Do you use the double breathing?
I know of these things. I find in the moment that I rarely remembered to do them, but
that's the thing with me too. Thank you.
But I have, like, sometimes like you talk about checklists. We're talking about Stop at Goaltending You, and one of the things that they talked about recently, like, if you are conscious or maybe go into a game and you remind yourself, hey, like last time things got a little out of control, and you keep in, as you learn these things, you have to sort of just remind yourselves of them maybe going into the situation, and then you're more likely to be able to execute them once it starts. So, do I do it enough? No. Am I trying to be more aware of it so I do it more often? Yes. Have I used breathing techniques to slow myself down a little bit in stressful situations outside of hockey? Yes. I think, and that's where the parent thing becomes relevant, and not necessarily as don't have a kid that plays hockey and find the sport I do watch, volleyball, because there's so much, it's not as fast paced. It's easy to take a deep breath, and maybe I just do it instinctually, but I totally can see how it would work, and it's a good idea to practice it. I just find in the actual games, I'm usually breathing really heavily as soon as the puck drops, like that, as opposed to, the deep sigh.
It's not double breathing; it's infinite breathing for.
Yeah,
Woody.
exactly. It's panting.
But I think you make two important points there. It is way better to be intentional than to react. So going into a game, whether it's as a goalie parent or as a goalie, having a plan, I think, is really important. That doesn't have to be a complicated plan. It doesn't have to be 14 different points. It could be as simple as, I am going to not get upset today, and I am going to practice my breathing when things get tense. That's enough. You can make it more complicated. You can deal with situations like, what will I do when a goal goes in and all this sort of stuff. But an intentional practice as you go to that game, it actually makes a real difference. The only thing I actually do as well that we didn't bring up in that is I do find a little bit of physical movement reduces stress. We all know exercise helps with stress. I do that myself when I'm feeling things are tough. I'll go for a run. But in a game, obviously you can't do that, but I will get up and walk around. And I think that's perfectly fine. You might feel a little weird being that guy pacing up and down, but if it does help you relax, or just to stand up if there's a standing area in your rink, I find that reduces the stress for me as well.
I get really quiet. Like I honestly almost take myself out of the situation, and that's the way I would handle things during my children's activities. And when my daughter was a keeper in soccer, that was the way I handled it. Otherwise, I would get a little too anxious and not be able to just process it as well. But being proactive, I do television every night during the season, and I think the double breathing, that tip going into the final 2 minutes before we go on the air, like that's when I'm most amped up. After the first minute 30 that we're on the air, things calm down. But I have trouble controlling that first 90 seconds because I'm so excited and so ready to go. Doing the double breathing, I think that's something I'm going to take to this year, and just try to be a little bit more in control out of the gate, and then using it in a reactive sense as well. The line,
still after all these years.
Oh, it's just a process. It's not nervous. Right. There's some anxiousness, but it's more excitement that's there. I get a rush from being on the air, and sometimes I come out and I'm just like a fire hose going, and I gotta pull back. And so the double breathing, I think, is gonna help out massively. The line, take a breath, like take a deep breath. It's been there forever.
Makes a difference.
It almost became something that was more of a jab or a shot, like take a breath, but it actually does work.
Absolutely does.
Well said.
NHL Sense Arena feature interview. Clay Stevenson is standing by. Welcome in, Clay. We'll get to you in a second. I want to talk about NHL Sense Arena and what's happening there, and then just a heads up as how we handle this interview. This is really fun. Clay's been a cool story. Like there was one year where he didn't play a game. A couple of years ago, and went through college, and it was COVID, obviously, because of that. And he's come out, and his attitude, if it doesn't make you excited and want to just go out and play right now, I think that you might need a little bit more encouragement around our game.
Hey guys, just before we get to Clay, who was an outstanding interview, Woody, I absolutely loved it. Let's just mention Sense Arena quickly, and I'm sure Clay's the kind of guy that would love the detail in Sense Arena. It's a new season. It's a great time to create some new habits, and I think you should make NHL Sense Arena a part of the solution to the problem that so many goaltenders are facing right now. That problem being not enough dedicated ice time for goalies and not enough goalie coaching. There are so many kids, and pretty much every recreational goaltender like Woody, who don't have enough ice time to practice and enough coaching to support them. NHL Sense Arena gives you that opportunity. It's got built-in training plans from professional coaches, diagnostics you can work through, tools to help you understand what you're doing in your game. You can face NHL shooters like Darren Millard does, or you can face shooters at your own level. You get to choose what you're doing. Basic drills in there to just work on your hands, see how you fill space. More complicated things to learn how to face different power plays. You can even do eye-hand coordination drills, neurocognitive training. It's all in NHL Sense Arena, and it's wrapped up in such a cool tool that lets you have so much fun walking through your own NHL dressing room, pick your team, going onto those awesome outdoor rinks or NHL rinks. It's a whole lot of fun, and it helps you train in a way that goaltenders really need today because we just don't get enough of it on the ice. NHL Sense Arena, give it a try. Go over to sensearena.com add it to your game this year.
Use it for 5 minutes, use it for a whole session, use it for an hour. It's up to you, but it's a resource that's standing by for you to make your game better. To Clay, and set this one up for us, Woody.
Well, there's a little background noise because this was from our trip in Kelowna. We had a little gap between an off-ice training session with Adam Francilia at James Wendland's gym, two names that you will recognize if you're a regular at InGoalMag.com and here on the InGoal Radio podcast, before they went on the ice. And as we hear from Clay, he had a little more time because he wasn't going on the ice because, of course, he's coming off his second straight American Hockey League championship season. And even though he wasn't the starting goaltender this year, he was still on the ice on a daily basis later in the season than anyone else. And so they had to work that into his process of getting ready for this upcoming season. Wanted to make sure they kept him off the ice longer because he was on the ice so late, on a day-to-day basis, doing drills, doing practice and all those things. So there is a little restaurant background noise as people come in and place their orders. And those people included Devin Levi, ironically, coming in to grab his lunch as he went off to the ice. Listen, I don't want to take too much of it. Let's just get to Clay, because go back and listen to his first interview. Fascinating story, great guy. And if you remember back in that first one, he had teams offering him guaranteed spots in the American Hockey League coming out of college as a college free agent. I think the Rangers wined and dined him with Henrik Lundqvist, if I remember correctly, like lunch with Lundqvist in New York. And yet he chose the Washington Capitals despite the fact Washington told him he would start in the ECHL. And it's all paying off. So there's some great lessons then, some great lessons now that Clay goes back to. And frankly, there probably wasn't enough time because I think we could have Clay on for another half hour and keep learning new things. So it means there's a part 3 coming. Enjoy part 2. This is one of my favorite guys to talk to.
Clay Stevenson, the NHL Sense Arena feature interview on InGoal Radio, the podcast.
Really excited to welcome back to the InGoal Radio podcast, Clay Stevenson.
Welcome. Thank you.
Coming off his second year pro. I feel like I just want to catch up on everything that's gone on because it's funny. The last time we talked to you, you'd made the decision to sign in Washington.
Yeah.
One of the reasons you made that decision, which kind of I think would run contrary to a lot of people, like, hey, I want the promise of American League time, was that they told you you'd start in the Coast. And so you did. First year primarily in the Coast. Next year, last year, you're in the American League. An American Hockey League championship. By the way, congratulations. We'll get to that.
Thank you.
But also an American Hockey League All-Star.
Yeah.
Looking back now, easy to say it's the right decision, but was there ever any time where you looked in that first year and you wished you were up?
No, honestly, like I said from previous conversations we've had, I went into my professional career with my eyes wide open. I looked at all the outcomes I could have, and it's on you to get better. And I went to the Coast with the purpose to be more comfortable in the pro life, playing a pro schedule. And, that just ultimately set me up for success when I transitioned to the American Hockey League.
So what is the biggest adjustment to that pro life? Is it the hockey? Is it the other stuff?
It's everything, right? Like, people, maybe don't understand kind of how much free time you have in pro hockey. And, managing what you're doing with your time. And there's a lot of relaxing. Obviously, you got to keep your body rested and keep your body feeling right to, do your day-to-day activities and be sharp on the ice and be sharp in the games and keep your brain on. So, I kind of got a little into some meditation and stuff, just a little bit after practice here and there. And, just make sure, I'm feeling good about what I did on the ice and everything like that. But, I think probably the hardest thing is just adapting to how many games you play, right? Like I come from college and stuff where, you're only really playing on the weekends, and then you get into pro, and especially in the East Coast League, when you're playing 4 games a week for 6 weeks in a row, like it's a lot, right? And how you're managing yourself that way, and how much you're managing your load in practice and whatnot. And it's really, just figuring out what works for you and developing your system. And, just being consistent with it. And that's probably one of the biggest things I learned was just my consistency and my routine. And yeah.
Walk me through some of those lessons. Like, did the routine change? Did it have to change? Because as you said, the number of games played. Were there any surprises there on, like, oh, wow, I don't have the time I used to had that year when I was at Dartmouth?
Yeah, in pro, right, like when you're like kind of warming up for games, like you're not really doing it as a whole team. And then so it's you're warming up on your own, and you kind of just to figure out the timing of, when you're on the road, different buildings, and adjusting your warm-ups to, whatever environment you're in, I suppose. But, it all sticks with the same underlying principle. And I don't necessarily think I really had to change too much. You figure out your warm-up really all through junior hockey, and, it evolves and adapts, and it's going to keep evolving and adapting for me, as I continue my professional career here. But just making sure, like, you're not doing too much or too little, just not warming up too much, or and
exhausting yourself.
Because I have had times where I felt like I've done that, especially my first year in the coast. Like, I'd get into a game and I'm feeling like I maybe was a little bit too intense in my warm up or something, and I get in there and I'm feeling a little bit more fatigued, I guess, as the game comes around. But that didn't happen very often, and that could lead to whatever external factors are happening in your life too, and whatever is weighing mentally on you. Sometimes that's a difficult part of it too, because, you still, as a pro hockey player, it doesn't matter what you feel day to day. You have to get on the ice and give the fans your best performance you can give that night, right?
Walk me through some of the routines. Walk me through some of the keys to your routine, what you can share in terms of, hey, how does Clay Stevenson get ready to play a game?
Yeah, game day routines are definitely a little bit different than practice routines for me. I think for maybe any young kids out there listening, you just have to find out what makes you tick on the ice, right? What puts you in that zone to feel like you can stop the puck as a goalie. And
is that mentally and physically, I'm guessing?
I truly do believe that's mentally and physically. Throughout my warm up, like, I come to the rink and I like to be in a good mood when I'm at the rink. Like, I like to be up. I like to be, laughing, having some conversations. But there always has to be that underlying knowledge that, you still have to, play a game, and, you're serious there, and you need to get whatever work you have to do in. But, I just usually start my day like in the morning skate, get my hips going, maybe head into the hot tub first or something like that, get the body feeling loose, and then just starts with a rollout. Then again, like, getting the hips going and making sure I'm feeling, mobile before I even step on the ice, and making sure, just analyzing the body a little bit, what feels like it needs more, maybe what, stuff like that. You'll add stuff if you feel like you need it, or usually I just stick to my same routine. I feel like it hits all of the points on my body, right?
Okay, so you talk about meditation.
Yeah.
Like, where is that something that's new? Like you said, killing time and all the extra time you have pro. But does that fit into your preparation of play, or no?
I'd say like meditation's kind of just like built in to my workouts or my warm-ups on game days, or usually like not so much. I'm not really like meditating or like finding a quiet spot to like go sit with a towel over my eyes. I know some guys do that. I don't, but perhaps I kind of do something like that before my pregame nap, where I'm just kind of laying in bed with my eyes closed. Like, I don't really find like I need to fall asleep before the game. I mean, it's a benefit for me for sure, but I just lay there with my eyes closed for a couple hours, and if I fall asleep, I fall asleep. But just laying there resting, your eyes aren't on a screen. I'm just sitting there, thinking about, just visualizing some movement in the crease, different patterns that happen on the ice and stuff like that. And, if I drift off, I drift off, but I'm still just, relaxing and meditating and putting my mind in the right spot before, I'm getting ready to go to the rink to play a hockey game. Right. But I feel like that whole game day mentality it's an all day affair for me. Kind of, it's not like it's really intense or anything, but it's just, it starts in the morning when you get up and you're preparing all day to play at 7:00. But yeah, like I said, it's not anything too crazy. Just, just what you need and what makes you tick on the ice.
It's funny because when you talked about sort of meditating visualization, are you seeing yourself in the game that night? Are you seeing specific opponents? Are you watching yourself from above? Are you looking out through your eyes at the play? How does because a lot of people hear about that, but they wonder, how do you picture yourself? What picture do you hold?
I think the best thing for me to explain it is just a feeling. So everything's about duplicating how you're feeling when you're playing your best is how I picture it in my mind, right? And to do that, you think back about how you felt making a really nice save, making really clean saves, like really small shifts through traffic, right? How does that feel in your body, right? And I'm laying there with my eyes closed. I'm thinking about those plays and I'm literally thinking to myself, how does this feel in my body? So like I'm looking through my eyes at the play, just feeling that movement in my body, how it feels, where I'm pushing myself. And I can just, in your mind, you can feel how that is, right? And maybe that's a weird way to explain it, but that's how I think of it.
Like if you think of like a lot of the young goalies, or like not young goalies, like even guys like me, that we hear it all the time.
Yeah, visualization.
But like how do you picture yourself in your visualization? What do you feel? And so it's really neat to sort of hear.
It is, yeah. You can feel the weight like of your helmet when you look. You can feel like if you stop pucks long enough, like you can feel what that puck feels like in your mind when it hits your glove, or how the puck feels, how the pads feel on your legs when they hit the ice, when that seal, you can feel all that stuff if you really think about it, and you can understand, you can see the lanes in your eyes where you should be looking. If you're looking on the right side of the person, you can visualize bodies in front of you where you should be looking, what kind of depth should I have on this play? You can feel where you should be in the crease,
I do. I mean, I don't quite play it at that level. Like, when you say feel the puck in your glove, I mean, I don't catch many cleans, so maybe I'm the wrong guy. But I know I do get what you're saying. The way you hold your body. I mean, we just finished in the gym with Adam. I know you've worked with James as well, Wendland. How's that changed over the last couple of years? Watching you out there ripping reps with Rhymes, and a lot of guys jealous about how well you're moving and how well you're holding your body. How's that evolved since we talked to you a couple of years ago with your work up here in Kelowna?
Yeah, so like I guess at that time when we first maybe got together, that was my first full summer being in Kelowna. I had a little bit of a cup of coffee maybe the year before, I think, but everyone struggles with learning how to stack their body the right way, how to move the right way. And, when you come in, you've been playing goalie for 15 years one way, and then you're kind of learning how to stack your body in the right way. And it's awkward at times because you have to relearn some neural pathways, right? And since we last talked, I've done so much positive reinforcement on my body that, it's a little bit second nature now, because that was me. I'd look at Beck Warm and, I want to move like Beck Warm. He's one of the best I've ever seen. And also, just a great friend to me. And so shout out to Beck.
I was just going to say, but I mean, I remember, I loved watching that guy move around the ice, right? Like special. The control, it really was.
It was special to watch. Definitely miss him. But so it's a different feeling now that I know that my body's in the right spot when I'm doing stuff. And, that just in turn makes it so much easier. Like I have so much more control in my body, and, I don't counter rotate, I can hold positions, longer times. My core is a lot stronger now. And, that just all helps with, the way you present your chest. I don't have to lean forward anymore. I can control, or I can, fix things when they go wrong from, my core, and I don't have to use my limbs as much anymore. And that's a big thing with goaltending. When you're going one way and push your core to go the other way, you have to hold it and counteract to the way your body wants to naturally move. And that's probably one of the biggest things I've been able to grow upon in my off ice.
Okay, and the other part too is like some of the tracking stuff, whether it's up here or with Scotty. I know with Scotty, we he's worked a lot with it too. How's that tied in? It feels like from the outside that stuff would all just fit really naturally.
Yeah, it does. It's all a toolbox, and what we're all trying to do around here is just add the right tools into our toolbox. And maybe some guys feel as though they can get something done with a flathead or something, instead of a Phillips or whatever, right? And it can still work, and that's all right. And everyone's going to have their own different style and how they want to do it. But there's some keys with the tracking and how we're stacking our body that I feel are somewhat non-negotiables when it comes to goaltending these days. And just keeping your eyes down on pucks. You're not bringing your chin up to look too much. I mean, there's so much gray area when it comes to goaltending, especially when you get into a game. What separates the greats from, someone that's just good is just sometimes just those split-second decisions that a guy has to make to stop a puck, right? And, it's a game of inches, and we're all just trying to optimize how we get into the right position, putting our bodies in the right spots to give ourselves the best chance to stop the puck. And the tracking, the way we work out to stack our body is just trying to give us the best advantage over the shooters.
What have you learned? Can you give us anything like an example of something, whether it's from Scotty or Juha?
Yeah.
Especially that Finnish influence, right? We've had him on the podcast as well. Like any little things that like, oh, hey, this is new, or hey, this makes a ton of sense to me.
Yeah. So a big thing this year that we were building upon, Juha and I, and Shep and I too, like we wanted to give ourselves the best possible chance to stop the second and third pucks, right? We were pretty confident that we could make those first ones all year, and we had that trust in us, and the team had that trust in us too. And we really started adding in like the Linus Ullmark recoil, just working on rushes, playing a little bit more conservatively. So the puck has to travel so far, and especially for me, I kind of just dialed back my game a lot this year, where the puck's coming from the point, you start releasing your edges, so you move back like an inch or so, and then that
gives you a big drift. It's really subtle.
It's really subtle. It's really subtle, and it moves you back just so that you have that little bit of momentum to reach the back doors in case of a rebound or a pass or anything, right? So the biggest thing we were working on is just giving ourselves the option to make any save, and in turn with that is how you stack your body in your stance, right? And how athletic are you standing to be able to, reach any destination that you need to, and giving your head the best look it can and the cleanest view with the most accurate information to give yourself the best possible outcome, and
building recoil into that. So it's important. Like I think the temptation for some guys when they and we've seen it now, like, Nashville calls it a teeter with Saros. They call it motion in Los Angeles. Like we're seeing more teams and more coaches sort of get back to that philosophy. Yeah. Listen, I can hear people out there already saying, I've always drifted backwards. We're not talking rush. We're talking, like you said, a point shot. To do it without ending up on your heels, to be able to hold your stance, your shape, your form, the different stacking that you talk about with Adam. Well, you have that drift. Did that take a little while to sort of get comfortable with that, or was it easy?
No, it's everything's uncomfortable when you first start doing it, and anything worth doing is, I find, and I'm fortunate enough to be pretty comfortable being uncomfortable. So I think that helps me sometimes, and it's fun working on new stuff too. But it's definitely from what you're told as a little kid. You want to hit the top of the paint, stop, set your feet, present big, hit the ground square. You want to do that anyway, but like for me, being 6'4" is a lot of help in the net regardless, So, I was able just to like if I'm coming up from the RVH, it's a pass, low to high. Like I'm not springing all the way to the top of the crease. Like I'm just kind of stepping up, maybe a foot or two off the goal line. And I'm looking, just finding the sight line, setting my feet, maybe getting a little bit of recoil, and, you know, understanding that, you know, maybe I don't need to shift all the way over to this puck coming at me from the blue line, that, you know, perhaps if I'm getting ready for the tip or something, that it's okay that the puck can hit me in the shoulder or on the shoulder floaters. Like I don't have to be totally square, just wherever I'm most comfortable making that read to shift over and not putting myself out of position and giving, you know, like I said, again, giving myself the best chance to make that second or third save. You know, you always want to take care of that first one so you don't have to, but, you know, again, just being aware of all the possible outcomes that could happen.
I love it. I love it. Now, you mentioned Hunter, Shepard, Shep. All this guy does is win.
Yes, he does.
Plays differently. I think a lot of people, I heard you talking about this today too. A lot of people don't realize how much structure is there.
Yeah.
But we'll go outside it when needed. What do you learn from a guy like that?
It's just so you know, that mentality. Shep's got that killer instinct in net, and you know, he just gets out there and gets a job done. And you know, that I think that speaks a lot about, you know, what goaltending is and how we approach it. You know, Shep and I are two polar opposite goalies in the crease, but you know, we were looking at the game through the same mentality, right? And we were talking about it and executing saves in the same kind of ways, right? And you know, he's just, it's incredible to watch, you know, just, you know, the way he understands, you know, where he can cover the net and how he can get there. And
it's like your definition of a cerebral goaltender.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
The conversation with him was so enlightening. We learned so much.
For sure. You know, and we would talk a lot about, you know, changing our hand positions when the puck's coming in tight and how to get that coverage. And because I felt like, you know, I was getting vulnerable and tight. So, you know, puck's coming through my arms. And, you know, I also think I should just move to a shorter stick now. My goalie coach from college is just going to laugh at that now because he fought me on that. Now that I think I want to do that. But I just think, you know, maybe a shorter stick, you know, I won't have as much holes through
we've
my
seen a lot of guys go that way in the last it's a trend in the last couple of years.
Right?
Yep.
So, you know,
or even I'm more of a slow paddle that lets your hand go down.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the way I'm going to lean. But
the bob.
Yeah, the bob, exactly. So, but yeah, Chef is, you know, we learned a lot. I especially learned a lot from him. And I think more of the biggest is just, you know, his mentality and, you know, the calmness and how he approaches it and how he is in the rink, you know. He's a fun guy to watch, and you know, just an absolute pleasure to be his goalie partner.
What'd you learn in the playoff run? Like, I mean, getting to lift a trophy and celebrate as a champion is a pretty special feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you look back more at that moment, or are there lessons that you're processing along the way that will help you throughout your career?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm really fortunate to be able to have been a part of the past two Hershey playoff runs. You know, I was the third goalie that first one in 23, and then, you know, I was fortunate enough to be the backup in 24 here. And you know what I learned from that is just every team is going to go through adversity. Like, we were the best team in the league all year. We had that target on our backs, and teams were giving us their best effort every single night during the regular season. And we didn't have much adversity through the regular season. You know, we were just kind of rolling through teams, and, you know, we get to the playoffs, and, you know, our coach does a great job, Todd Nelson, managing, you know, us mentally to, you know, get the maximum out of us in practice and leading into games. And yeah, just like dealing with adversity is huge. You know, what we built in Hershey is just the culture of, you know, leaning on one another. You know, we're out there doing it for the guys to your left and to your right, and you know, that's pretty cliche, but you know, whenever I'm in the crease, like, I truly believe that the guys in front of me deserve the best goaltending performance they can have, right? You know, they're out there blocking shots, they're working hard to, you know, push the leads for us, get goals, defend, and it's hard. It's a hard league, and I think anything less than great goaltending is just unacceptable. So, in a way,
has that always been something you've had? Like, I'm guessing to a certain degree that's always been a part of you.
Absolutely.
But was it emphasized or stressed?
No,
I just driven home.
It's just driven to me. Like, I just, it doesn't matter. Like, if the team's giving up multiple grade A chances, like that shouldn't matter to you. Like, any kid out there, any parents, like, it's honestly a good thing. Like, if not quite, but you should have a good mentality when it comes to like grade A shots that, you still have a job to save those, because, your team deserves that. Right. Like, and those are the moments I want to be there for my team, is making those big saves. Like, you don't get it's addicting, that feeling, you get when you hear the crowd go or teammates come and it's a big save, and it's a transitional save that you can go back on the rush and stuff like that. It's huge. It's huge for momentum for the team,
I love it. I think we're going to end there because it's such a great answer about mentality, right? Like, let them soak in that mentality that you've always sort of strived for and is driven home through a championship run.
Absolutely.
I love it. Clay, absolutely. I feel like we could spend another 45 minutes here and not learning, but just, you know what that means? Means we need another one.
Yeah, we will.
It just means we need another one.
Absolutely.
All right, buddy.
All right. Thank you.
Couple of things. One, going to a shorter stick, like that trend, there is something there with that, and giggling and connecting to his college coach about, sounds like there was a desire to go down that path earlier. The other part is you can have totally different styles, but the same objective. And Hunter Shepard and Clay Stevenson aren't the same goaltenders, but they do connect in what their ultimate target is.
Yeah, just one of the many lessons that you get talking to Clay Stevenson. And it's that open-mindedness, right? That as opposed to just looking at a guy who plays totally differently from him and like being dismissive of it, that's not what I'm trying to do. That understanding you can always take things from each other. And it sounds like a great relationship between those two as well. And one that they'll get to continue to work on this year. Although, I think a lot of us were a little disappointed that Hunter isn't getting the shot to be the backup guy in Washington this year. I think we also feel like that's inevitable because, as Clay mentioned, all this guy does is win and stop pucks.
Visualization and meditation. And sometimes those lines get blurred a little bit, but Clay does use both. And I like the idea that he sees himself making these saves in certain situations.
Yeah, because we always hear about that, right? We always hear about visualization and how it goes. And I try to ask, and not everybody explains to the degree that Clay did. And that's what I love that, because we always hear it, but what does it look like? Are you seeing the puck from your mind's eye? Are you above yourself, watching yourself? Like how? And
you seeing it from the play-by-play angle? Yeah.
Yeah. Clay walked us through the whole. I love that openness. It's something not everybody has. And again, I just think when you talk to Clay, you get the sense, and when you get to meet him and watch how he works, like just he's one of those guys, has a really pure passion for the position without letting himself get caught up or overwhelmed by that quest for new knowledge and new things.
Hutch, you are underway with young Maddie at Vancouver Giants preseason. This is my last weekend without hockey. Next weekend, I'll be at the rookie tournament in Los Angeles that the Golden Knights are taking part in. So I will speak to you from NHL Faceoff in El Segundo next week.
Couple of double breathing exercises before you speak to us.
Exactly. Totally. We're just doing the broadcast. We're doing the radio broadcast there, and it's being streamed. So it's
that's fantastic.
Looking forward to doing that. Love getting to see the kids a little bit, especially when it's in Vegas. You don't seem to get as much time around them, but when you're at the tournament, you can see them at the hotel or on the plane or whatever. So, kind of move down that path, Woody, where we're getting closer.
Yeah, Canucks have their rookie tournament up in Penticton next weekend with the Jets, Oilers, and Flames prospects all taking part. Not yet sure if I am going. If NHL.com is sending me there, and then training camp starts the week after. So Captain Skates ongoing, guys back in town. Lots of questions about the Vancouver Canucks and the health of their goaltenders, as we talked about in the past couple of weeks, and I'm sure we'll revisit that next week as guys we start to get a better picture of what that's going to look like, not just here in Vancouver, but around the league.
If you have access to attend a rookie tournament in the National Hockey League, there's several different versions all over. Traverse City was the OG, but they are a lot of fun, and you will be shocked at how many people you will know in and around the rink. Like NHLers everywhere, the coaches, the GMs, the scouts from other teams that want to take a look at the rookies. It's an absolute stew, a chili, a crock pot just bubbling over of NHL people, and you can just it's almost the closest thing I get to a draft. Going to the draft where there's just everybody's there and you can kind of connect and make good in some of these relationships that you haven't been tidy on.
Between that and the fact it's in the Okanagan and there's a bunch of golf courses and wineries around, Darren is making a hard sell on Kevin going to Penticton, even if NHL.com doesn't send him.
Just if you play Gallagher's Canyon, just give yourself a mulligan off the tee and drop it 150 out, and away you go, because that's the most intimidating tee shot in golf, because of not because of what you're looking at in the golf course, but what's behind you with the patio and the restaurant and everybody in the world, it feels like, is watching you hit that first shot.
You want to know when it's more intimidating? When Connor Hellebuck's in your group. I played that course with him, and he was a stick at the time too. So he ropes it right down the middle, and then you've got the people behind you and him standing watching as I probably just bunted it 100 yards out there. Thank God for the downhill. It carried a little further and didn't humiliate me completely.
Double breathing, Hutch. Double breathing.
I was doing it last night.
Right back to it.
Just to be clear, like, it's just because you want your kids to have fun. Like, honestly, it's not that they have to win. It's not that they have to make this team or whatever. It's just you want them to have a smile on their face when they get off. And it's there'll be a lot of double breathing this season, I'm sure.
Thanks for listening to InGoal Radio, the podcast presented by the Hockey Shop, source for sports language at hockeyshop.com. We'll talk to you next week.